Namaste everyone and welcome back to our channel. So today we are back with another Terraform project. So basically we are going to deploy an EKS cluster on AWS using Terraform as well as Jenkins. So instead of directly applying the changes with the help of Terraform, we are going to deploy the changes with the help of Jenkins, which is a CI/CD tool. So, if you're looking to enhance your skills in DevOps and automation, then this channel is the right place for you. Do make sure to go through our content, okay? And if you found it useful, do make sure to like, share, and subscribe as well. So, now without wasting any time, let's get started.
Now, first of all, before actually beginning, let me tell you why do we need to create these projects. So basically, as a fresher, you don't have anything to showcase as such, right? You don't have any work experience that you can showcase to your employers in the job interviews. So in order to show these employers that yes, we know these tools, we have done some hands-on on it, we have some sort of experience with it, we make these projects. Okay. So these projects are not very complex projects, but they are simple projects which give you a brief context of what you will be doing as a DevOps engineer. Okay. I would suggest to keep making more and more projects and thus exploring multiple tools before you actually sit for an interview. Okay, that would be more than enough. Okay, so first of all, if you don't know what is an EKS cluster, you must know like what are we actually deploying. So basically, this particular EKS, that is Elastic Kubernetes Service. So basically, this particular service is a managed service which is provided by AWS. Yes. So why is it called as a managed service? Now, if you know about Kubernetes, then you must be knowing that Kubernetes has multiple components, and the two main components of which are like the control plane and the worker nodes. Right. So basically, control plane is something that keeps the control of the overall cluster. Okay. And there are multiple worker nodes on which your applications would be actually running. Okay. So this is the mastermind. That is control plane. That is going to control everything in your cluster. Now, this control plane is something that is managed by AWS in case of an EKS cluster. Okay. And we as a customer or users, not users, as a customer, we are going to create and manage these nodes. Are you getting my point? So these are the things because of which it is called as a managed service. So you don't have to create this control plane from scratch, right? You don't have to configure every little thing from starting from scratch. You don't have to do that. So that is something that is managed with the help of EKS. Okay. So there are multiple such managed services provided by different cloud platforms. So basically, if you consider Azure, then they have this AKS, that is Azure Kubernetes Service. Then in case of GCP, we have got GKE, that is Google Kubernetes Engine. Right. So these are the things which are the managed services, which are Kubernetes services. Right. So I hope what is EKS is a bit clear. If not, then you must first try to understand the Kubernetes, right? So the prerequisite for this lecture is that you must know about Kubernetes as well. Then only you will be able to understand what all things are actually happening over here. Okay? So that's the thing that you need to learn first. Now, the second thing is, now what is Terraform? Right? So if you don't know anything about Terraform, you can watch my playlist. I have made a special playlist for Terraform. But if you want to know in short or in brief, then this particular Terraform is an IAC tool. Now, what does this IAC mean? IAC means infra as a code. That is infrastructure as a code tool. Means what? Like if we want to create an EC2 instance or any such resource on cloud platform like AWS, then in that case we directly create it, right? But if we want to create these particular resources with the help of a code, then in that case we make use of Terraform. And why do we use them? What are its benefits? Everything is explained in my introduction video wherein I have explained all of these in detail. Okay, so it is just like we are making use of this code to deploy our infra. So this is what you need to understand overall, right? So this is about Terraform. Now, let's try to understand what is Jenkins. So basically, Jenkins is nothing but a CI/CD tool, right? Now, what is a CI/CD tool? So basically, in a software development life cycle, that is SDLC. So in that case, we have got multiple stages wherein our code goes through. That is, we first write the code, then we build it, right? Then we test it, right? Then we deploy it. So these are the multiple stages of software development lifecycle. So in this case, all of these processes are automated. Okay. So all of these are automated with the help of Jenkins CI/CD pipeline. So we make use of Jenkins for that. But in this particular case, we are going to make use of Jenkins to kind of validate, test our Terraform code and then deploy the changes to our AWS with the help of this particular Terraform, right? So this is what is going to be done by Jenkins. Okay, so this is pretty much about what all things we are actually going to implement, right? Now, let's try to understand what is the CI/CD pipeline that we are going to implement in this project. So basically, you can see that first we develop the Terraform code. Okay, so once the Terraform code is ready, we will be pushing this particular code to the GitHub repository, right? So then this GitHub repository is going to trigger a Jenkins pipeline. Now, this Jenkins pipeline is something that is going to deploy the changes to the AWS cloud platform, thus creating an EKS cluster with the help of Terraform. So, all these things are going to happen one by one and in sequence. Okay, so this is pretty much about our pipeline, and it's a very simple pipeline. So most of the people are charging so much to teach these projects. So please go through this project carefully so that you can take the benefit of this particular lecture. Okay. So let's try to code, but before that, let's also try to understand the prerequisites of it. Okay, so there are some prerequisites. So the prerequisites are, first you must have an understanding of Terraform. You must also have an understanding of Kubernetes. Okay, you must also have an AWS account. Then after that, you must also have Terraform installed on your machine. Fifth thing, you must also have got the access keys of your account. Okay, so you don't need to have Jenkins installed on your machine or anything other than that. You just need to have an AWS account, Terraform installation done, and you must have the user access keys. Whichever user you are implementing, you must just go to the console, just go into the security credentials, and within that, you will get these access keys. If you don't have, you can just create it. Okay, this is really simple. What are we actually going to do? Okay, so we are going to create an EC2 instance. So this is our EC2 instance, right? And then we are going to deploy Jenkins on it. Okay, so this process is also something which is manual, but we are going to do it with the help of Terraform itself. Okay, so this is one thing that we are going to do. Then after that, we are going to create an EKS cluster. And who is going to create that for us? This particular Jenkins is going to trigger a pipeline and create an EKS cluster for us. Okay, so this is what is actually going to happen. So first we are going to create an EC2 instance. First thing, we are going to create an EC2 instance plus deploy Jenkins on it. So this is the first half of our project. And the second half is that we are going to create, or I would say, is to, just a minute. And the second part of the project is to write Terraform code for an EKS cluster. Now our Terraform code is ready. Then what we are going to do is push the code on GitHub. Then the fourth thing is we are going to create a Jenkins pipeline. Okay, which is going to deploy an EKS cluster. Now, once the pipeline is ready, then we are going to just deploy the changes to AWS, right? So first we are going to create an EKS cluster, and then after creating the EKS cluster, we are then going to implement a deployment, and then we are going to implement the deployment file with the help of kubectl, which will deploy an Nginx application on our EKS cluster, and will be accessing that particular application with the help of load balancer. Okay, so that's it. Now let's go and start coding. So basically what I have done is I have created a new repository named Terraform Jenkins EKS, and now I will be cloning this particular repository on my local. So I will be opening the git bash over here, okay, and just cloning this repository with the help of git clone and paste. So now new folder has been created over here, okay. So let's try to go into that particular folder, okay. And in this particular folder, we are just going to open the VS Code, okay. So we are done with this. Now, before actually starting, I would let you know that we won't be creating any modules in this particular video. We are going to reuse the already existing Terraform modules. Okay, now this is a new concept, so pay attention throughout the video so that you get a clear picture like what all things are we actually using. So first of all, I would like to create all the files and then we'll jump on to this modules concept. Okay. So now let's try start with the provider first. Okay. So first of all, let's mention the provider and it is AWS of course. So before actually applying the changes, you must have this AWS CLI configured. Okay. So you have to just paste your access key ID as well as secret access key ID as it is into this, then define the region name in which you are working in, okay, and then just you can keep the default format, you don't need to change anything over here, and enter. So in this way you have configured your AWS CLI. So within the region we are going to mention the region name that we are going to use. Then after that, in the backends.tf, we are going to make use of a remote backend that is S3. Okay, so you must already have an S3 bucket already created. So I have got this particular bucket already created over here. So I'll be just making use of this bucket. So I'll just go over here and mention the Terraform block right here, and then after that I'll be mentioning the backend. The backend is of course S3, and then I will be just kind of mentioning the bucket name right here. So the value for the bucket should be taken from this particular UI itself, okay, and you will be just pasting it right here. Then after that you will be mentioning the key, okay. Now, key is something where you store your TF state file, right? So, in this, I will be just trying to segregate it for Jenkins, and so I have mentioned it as Jenkins slash terraform.tfstate. Okay. Then after that, I will be mentioning the region, which is US East 1 once again. Okay. And make sure that you don't make use of variables in this particular block. It is recommended to actually add the values here itself. Okay, that's it. Now then after this we are going to configure the data. So this data sources we are going to make use for fetching the AMIs, right? So AMIs are already present, you just need to fetch them, right? So for that I will be just going through AWS AMI data source Terraform. Okay, I will be getting one of the examples and I'll be just making use of it. See, you got this. Okay, yeah, I would be modifying certain things from here. Okay, so don't make use of executable users as self if you are making use of owners as Amazon. Okay, so I have got one AMI filter, so I'll be making use of that over here. Okay, that's it from my side. And then after that, I'll be creating one more data source for AWS availability zone. Okay, and in here I would be just mentioning the AZs. Fine. Okay, now let's go to the main.tf, and in here the first thing that we are going to create is a VPC. The second thing that we are going to create is an SG, that is security group, and then after that we are going to create an EC2 instance. Quite simple. So in this, we won't be directly, creating any modules and using them here. What I'll be doing is I'm going to make use of already existing modules. So let's type Terraform, let's say VPC modules, and in here you can click on the first link that comes up, and you get an example right here. Okay, so what you have to do is just grab this particular thing and just kind of use it in this. Okay, so what we are actually doing is we have got this Terraform AWS modules section. So within this we have got all the modules required for a different resources. Okay, so we are just making use of those modules in our particular code. Okay, just type it as Jenkins VPC. For the CIDR, we are going to make use of a variable. So let's go to the variable section. VPC underscore CIDR. And in here, we are going to mention the description, which is VPC CIDR. And the type over here is of string. Okay, that's it. It's simple and quite easy as well. And within the terraform.tf vars, you are just going to paste its value, which is 10.0.0.0/16, right? Just save it, and in here you are just going to pass it as var.vpc underscore CIDR. That's it. Within the AZs, they have already hard coded this, but what we have done is we have made use of data. Okay, and we are going to make use of this particular attribute, that is names. Fine, and we won't be making use of private subnets. We are going to go with the public subnets, and only one subnet is sufficient for us, since we are going to just create an EC2 instance, right? So we are going to create a variable for this. So variable is public underscore subnet. Okay, then the description is here. We have to mention the subnets CIDR, and the type is list of string. Okay. Now, once you have defined this, just go over here for the public subnets. You will just have to mention the value. I will be mentioning 1.0 slash 16. Just one subnet, and that's fine. Okay. Var dot public subnets. Done. Now I would be removing these. I would rather go for DNS host names to true. Okay, and this fine. But I would also like to have the name that is Jenkins hyphen VPC. Okay, so this much is sufficient to create a VPC. The rest of the things, that is internet gateways, then the route tables, the route table associations, everything is done for us with this particular module. You don't have to define any of those things. Okay, it gets automatically created for us. Okay, so let's try to just test this. Terraform. Let me just do Terraform FMT. I will be initializing the code first of all. You see this particular line, that is downloading this particular module from registry.terraform.io. Just the difference is that Terraform is managing these modules. Okay, and the previously created modules were created by us. That's the only difference. Okay, now let's try to validate the changes. Okay, now the configuration is valid. Let's try to plan the changes. Plan is basically to preview the changes, that's all. Okay, it's not a valid, just a minute. Okay, I have made a mistake over here. Yes, so it should be 24 over here. Okay, so like it's shown me everything that it is going to add. Okay, so this is the VPC that it is creating. It has also created the subnet, the route table association. Then you can see the route table as well, along with the AWS route also. Then the AWS Internet Gateway. This default security group is also being created. Okay, okay. So now we can just apply the changes. Okay, and it is going to create a VPC for us. Okay, now the changes have been applied. Let's go to the console to check whether the VPC got created or not. So over here you can see that Jenkins hyphen VPC got created. Then we have got a subnet, that is this one. Okay, so the same tag is visible for that as well, right? So instead of giving a single tag to all of them, we can also make use of like public subnet tags. So that tag will be specific for that particular subnet. So subnet tags, and just mention the tag name as Jenkins hyphen subnet. Okay, now it will be just modifying few changes. Okay, so the changes have been deployed. Now let's go and refresh it. Yeah, over here you can see Jenkins subnet right here. Then this is the Jenkins VPC. Now this is the route table, okay, that has been attached to this particular subnet as well. Okay, then we have got this particular internet gateway as well. So all of these things are getting created automatically. Okay, so you don't need to worry about it. So that's it. Now let's jump on to the other things, that is about creating a security group. So let's go to the Terraform module of security group. Yes, we have this over here. Just go over here. So in this way, we are going to define our security group. Okay, so let's try to remove this description which is already there defined. Okay, so let's name it as Jenkins SG, and the description is security group for Jenkins server. Fine. Now the VPC ID will be, now this VPC ID will be coming from this particular module, right? So we would be defining it as module.vpc dot vpc underscore id. Okay, so we are going to make use of this. Fine. So this will return the VPC ID which will be attached to our security group. Just mention it as SG. I would rather prefer not to mention these. I will be just mentioning the 8081. Okay, so this one is specifically for the HTTP, and the CIDR block is 0.0.0.0/0, since we want to allow it from all the IP address ranges. Okay, again I will be just copy pasting this part once again, and in here I will be making use of SSH. Okay, and again it should be like from everywhere. So these two are what I need. Then I think we must also have got an egress one. Yeah, so for that we will have to go to the input section and search for the egress CIDR blocks. So this one you can see over here, but I don't want just the CIDR block. I want egress with CIDR block. So this is what is the list that we want to mention. Okay, so this is another list. Then protocol is equal to -1, and CIDR blocks will be /0. Okay, so in this way we have created a security group. Yes, so now let us give it a tag, that is the name, which is equal to Jenkins SG. Just save this. Okay, and now we'll go to our git bash once again and try to just format the things again and just try to validate the stuff. Okay, so first we need to initialize it, right? Because the module needs to be downloaded first before we actually use it. So that is done only with the help of init command, right? So Terraform plan. Now let's first validate. Okay, the configuration is valid. Now Terraform plan. We will be applying the changes. Okay, so now the apply has been completed. So let's go to our EC2 and let's check whether the security group has been created or not. Yes, the security group has been created over here. Let's check whether it has got the desired inbound rules as well as outbound rules. So yes, we have got 8080. So basically we are opening this 8080 port range just for the Jenkins server so that we can install the Jenkins on this particular thing. And 22 is basically for the SSH, that is secure shell. Okay. Then after that we have to create an EC2 instance. So now let's go to this Terraform AWS EC2 modules, and this is the first link wherein we can get this. Yes, so over here you can see these are certain examples. So since I have to create a single EC2 instance, I'll be just grabbing this particular code from here and just using it. So now it is EC2 instance. So the name I would like to mention it as Jenkins server. Okay, and for the instance type, of course, we'll have to create a variable for it. Okay, so for the key name also we'll need to check which key names are available for us, and also the security group ID as well, and the subnet ID as well. Okay, and also one more thing is to associate the public IP address. Okay, so that is also something that we need to address, but let's go with the instance type first. Okay, and just try to mention the name over here as well. And the name over here is Jenkins server. Okay, now let's go to the variables and define the variable as instance type. Instance type, and then we have got this type as string, Okay, and now let's go to the terraform.tf vars and just mention the instance type as t2.micro. Fine. And within this, we are just going to go over here and mention its instance type here itself. Okay, let's go to our console once and let's try to see the key pairs which are available. So Jenkins server key is available. So I will just copy this particular key and this is what we are going to use in here as well. Okay, so keep monitoring as to no worries with that. Now the security group that we want to use is this one, right? So it's of course the module sg. So let's mention it as module dot sg dot. Now what is the output of it? That is something that we need to check. So let's go to the security group and in here let's go to the, okay, so there is this dot security group id. So this is something that we need to get, right, this security group id. And again we have we need a subnet id, of course, right? So the subnet id would be coming from VPC itself, right? So we are creating a subnet with this particular VPC. So we will get these public subnets from here. Okay, so these are, this is going to return the list. So how can we get the value is by just mentioning it as the first value. Okay, so just public, you can see public subnets over here and just mention the first one. Okay, so yeah, now other than that, what if I want to associate public IP address as well? So then let's go back to the inputs. Public IP. Yes, so this one is the right one that we want for our C2 instance. Okay, once we did that, now we need to use a user data. So we are not going to manually install the Jenkins, right? So what are we going to do? So we have got this commands that we need to follow or execute on our EC2 instance. But what am I going to do is I'm just going to create a file. Let's say it as Jenkins install.sh. So basically this is the file that contains all the commands and this will be pushed as a user data for our EC2 instance. If you don't know what an user data is, user data is something that executes, or it's a file that gets execute when your EC2 instance is launched and starts running. So it is executed then. Okay, so let's just grab these commands. Okay, and just paste it right here. So what all things are you going to install? You are going to install Jenkins, you are going to install Git, you are also going to install Terraform, you are also going to install kubectl. Okay, so these are the things that you are going to install. Okay, just save this particular file. Okay, now within the main.tf, within the user data section, you are going to pass the file named jenkins-install.sh. Now this is going to become our user data. Okay, that's fine. Then we have got availability zone as well. Now which availability zone you want to work in, right? So definitely we have defined the data section, and within that we have got names, and that too the first name is something that we want to make use of. Now let's go to our git bash and try to apply the changes. Terraform init. Great. Now Terraform fmt, that is format, it is going to format my files. So all these things are done manually over here, right? So these things are going to be automated with the Jenkins. So how? That is something that we are going to learn. Okay, no need to worry. So Terraform validate. Okay, there is some error. Module.sg is an object, and this object does not have an attribute. Okay, Google is your best friend, remember that. Search whatever error you get. This object. This object does not have an attribute named this. Okay. This issue was with the wrong reference to the remote state. I was referring to the different remote state, and that was not having ALB attribute. After going through the code again, I realized. Fine. Okay, this is good working as a security group underscore ID. Okay, so let me try with this. Yes, it's working with security underscore group underscore ID. So sometimes documentation is also not the right resource to refer. So you must Google it and find out what all things we need to do. So there is only one thing to add, and that is our Jenkins server. So now let's try to apply the changes. Hyphen hyphen auto hyphen approve. Belong to different networks. Okay, let me check once documentation of VPC. Okay, and in this let me check about the VPC ID. So there is one more. Okay, so VPC ID is what is desired over here and not the default VPC ID. Okay, so yeah, now it should work. Okay, now we can see that 5 resources have been added. Now let's go to our console once. Okay, let's go to the instances section and we can see a Jenkins server, okay, in a running state, and it must have a public IP address as well. It does. And it must have a security group associated with it, which has got 2 port range in its inbound, and for the outbound it's allowing all of them. Yes, so everything is configured exactly how it should be. I think everything is done properly. Yeah, so now, I mean, let's try to access this Jenkins server. Okay, just copy this and kind of paste it over here and just run 8080. Okay, so there may be some sort of problem. So basically the problem with the code was that we hadn't mentioned map public IP on launch in the VPC. We missed this particular shebang for the shell script file. So I'm adding this over here. Now let's see if it works for us. Okay, I will be destroying everything. Okay, we are done with the destruction part. Then now once again we'll be applying the changes. Okay, so now the apply has been completed. So let's try to refresh it once. Now let's check it. Yes, so now the Jenkins has been installed and you can see this UI if your Jenkins has been successfully installed. Okay, so once your Jenkins is installed, you can just go to this particular path on your EC2 machine. So just go and connect it. Okay, let me connect and show you once again. So just click on this server and connect it, and again go to this connect option. Okay, then just kind of mention sudo cat because we have got that initial password at this particular location and you get this password. Okay, so you just have to copy this password and just go to your UI and just paste it and just continue. Don't save this. Yeah, install the suggested plugins and it is going to install plugins for you. So just enter the details. So I'll be just entering few details out here. Okay, cool. So this will be my Jenkins URL. Save and finish. Start using Jenkins. So now this is the main dashboard that will be visible to you. Once you have done all the steps that I have mentioned, okay, you will get this particular um, dashboard. But we won't be jumping in right here. First thing first, we have to create an EKS cluster code first, right? So let's go to our VS Code once again. And don't forget to mention the file, that is .gitignore. See, these files like .terraform folder as well as this .terraform.log.hcl. So these files are not recommended to be pushed to our GitHub repository. So better is to keep them in gitignore so that they won't be um, getting added. So just save this. Yes, and you would be fine now. I'll be closing this VS Code as of now, and I'll be opening it in another folder. Oh my god, I just created a single folder. Okay, no problem. So I will be creating a folder specifically for the EC2 with Jenkins, or just say Jenkins server. Okay, and just include all of these files, okay, in this particular folder, that is Jenkins server. And now we are going to create one more folder for our EKS cluster. Okay, so let's open this one with code now. Okay, so now, okay, we'll be mentioning the provider over here. So let's try to mention the provider, that is AWS, and the region again is US East -1, Control S, and within the backend we are going to define the backend as S3 once again, and the same S3 bucket I would be considering. Let me once again go and copy that particular this thing. And the key over here is like EKS slash terraform.tf state. Then the region is US East 1. Fine. Now, okay. So rest of the things will be adding as and when required. So first of all, the other thing that we require is to define something. And what needs to be defined is a VPC once again. We are going to create another VPC, and within that we are going to deploy an EKS cluster. So what I will be doing is, let me open, or else what I can do is I'll open both of these folders in the single VS Code. Yes. Okay, cool. So over here within the Jenkins server we have got this main.tf wherein we have defined the VPC. So I will be just including the same uh, module as it is. I will be just making the changes in the VPC CIDR, okay. So variables also I can take it from here itself, both of these. Whatever is repetitive, you can just copy and paste it. Okay, so that's fine. Now within the terraform.tf vars, just copy this part and just paste it over here, and instead of this particular range, we can make use of 192.168, right? And just kind of replace the first two things with this one. Okay, so that's pretty much about it. Okay, um, we'll be just editing these names. I think I would have to change everything in the tag section. So let me do that first, okay? Okay, so now we are going to modify a few things in here. Now we also need group of private subnets as well. So we are going to actually deploy this EKS cluster in a private subnet. Okay, so let's go to the variables section and add, just kind of copy this stuff and just name it as private and save it. Okay, so then over here you are just going to mention it, and you are going to make use of multiple subnets over here, multiple ranges I would say. Yeah, so let's give them the ranges. So let's start from 1 only. 1, then there's 2, and lastly we also have got the third one. Okay, so here you have got fifth one and the sixth one. Done. So now we are going to add these subnets in our this main.tf. Okay, and over here, yeah, it's already mentioned, so no need to mention it once again. So few things are going to be same. So I'm going to remove this map public on IP on launch as well, and let me also enable the NAT gateway. Why? Because we are making use of private subnets over here, right? So we need them. We also are going to make use of single NAT gateway. Okay, fine. Now, after this, we are going to make use of different tags out here. Okay, so I have got a list of tags that we need to use over here. So basically, you just have to make use of this kubernetes.io/cluster/my EKS cluster is equal to shared. Okay, just copy it over here. Yeah. Then after that, similarly for the public subnet tags as well. It has to be there. And one more tag we'll be adding right here, that is ELB1. Now there are private subnet tags as well. Yes. Here also these two things are going to be same. So just the difference is of the, instead of ELB, it is going to mention internal ELB. That's it. Okay, so now our VPC is ready. Okay, now let's go to our EKS module, right? So now this is something new, right? So let's go to our documentation and just search for Terraform EKS module. Okay, just go over here and you will get an example, of course, written right in front of you. So you can grab it. Okay, just take it from here and just paste it over here. Okay, now there are certain things that you need to remove from here. So I will be defining it as my EKS cluster. So the version that I want to use is 1.24. I won't be making use of any cluster add-ons or such something like that. So VPC will come from the above module, that is module.vpc.vpc underscore id. Yes, and this particular subnets should come from private subnets because we want to deploy our EKS in a private this thing, right? So VPC dot private subnets. Okay, so it would be fine. And within the EKS managed node group defaults, I don't think so. I would be making use of it. Just the EKS node groups is fine. And within this, I would be defining a node. Okay, so the things that we mentioned over here is, so basically this is the node group, I would say. Yes, and the name that I have given over here is say nodes. Okay, now the group must have minimum of one node, maximum of three nodes, or any number you think is required in your case. Then the desired size. Okay, now this is the requirement, that is it should have two and max it can go up to three. Okay, so this is according to our requirement and it would change with a business need, right? So that is the thing. Fine. And then within this, we are also going to define the instance type as well. And the instance type should be written in this particular list format. Let's keep it as t2.small. Okay. And that's pretty much what is required, I think. Okay. So yeah. Okay, so this is done almost. So let me save it. Now let us go to our git bash. and let me enter this particular folder, that is EKS. Okay, and I'll be just initializing the Terraform code. I'm not going to deploy it using like this method only. It has to be done with the help of Jenkins itself, but I'm just trying to check whether everything is right or not. So Terraform FMT, let me validate it. Also Terraform validate. Okay. So this has not been declared in the root module. Okay. So have I not? Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't define it and I'm using it. Wow.
Wow.
Just define it over here and you are done. Okay, so now it is pretty much done. Now let me plan it. Cool. So everything is working fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to push this code to my repository. Okay, so let me come out of it. And before that, I would also like to mention the git ignore as well. So yeah, new file, just mention dot git ignore. Okay, just save it. Yes. Now let's go to our git bash once again. And now let me check the status first. Okay. Now let me once again check this git status. Yes. So git add, we can add these changes. Git commit -m adding files repo. That's it. Then git push -u origin and whatever the name of the branch is, right? So now let's check GitHub first, right? Within the repositories, let me check. Yes. So these two changes have been updated right here. Okay. Now, once we are done with this, uh, we will be just creating a pipeline in our Jenkins. Okay. So within the new item, I am going to select the name as, say, Terraform CI EKS CI/CD. Yeah. So this one and pipeline and OK. Okay. So this is pretty good. Now, first things first is you will have to add the access keys as well as secret access keys. Now, why? See, because Jenkins is going to make changes to your AWS, right? Now, For that, Jenkins need to know the credentials, the authentication needs to be happened, right? Without that, it can't make changes to any other platform. So for that matter, we first need to add credentials. So how do we do that? So let's go to the dashboard. Okay, in that we have got this manage Jenkins in the left side pane. Okay, and within this we have got this credentials section. Okay, just go to this, and within this click on global, go to add credentials, and within this just change this username with password to the secret text. Why? Because AWS access keys as well as secret access keys are kind of secret texts. So they can't be visible, right? So for that matter, we have to mention it that way. So the ID for that is AWS access key ID. Okay. And for the secret, we just have to open that particular file. Now let me go to my downloads and search for this particular file. Now this one is something that has got my secret access key as well as access key ID. So I'll just copy them. Okay, and I'll be just kind of pasting it over here and create. Okay, again I will be adding another secret text, that is AWS secret access key. Okay, and I'll be just copying this particular secret access key and just kind of pasting it right here and create. Okay, so now I have created access key ID as well as secret access key, both of them over here. Fine. Now let's go to our dashboard once again, into the pipeline and into the configure section. Okay, so in this we first mention pipeline. Okay, and agent any, and we are going to mention the environment details in this particular section, and for the stages we are going to create one more different section, right? Okay, so in the environment we are going to define those AWS access key ID. Okay, so basically we are going to mention it in this way, the form of credentials, and the credential name we have to copy and paste it as it is. It should not be slightly different also, otherwise it will give you an error. So AWS secret access key is equal to credentials. Okay, so we'll be just kind of taking the values. So let me open it in a new tab. So over here within the manage Jenkins, just go to the credentials section and grab these. Just copy this. Okay, and then this one. Then after that, we are going to mention the region, which is US East 1. Okay. Then we also have got the stages. So there are we can define multiple stages. So generally the first stage that we mention is of course checkout, SCM. Okay. So within this we are going to define the steps section, and within that we have script section, right? So in order to get this script, we are going to make use of pipeline syntax. So just open it in the new tab. Okay. And in here you get multiple options for creating a script, right? So over here, since I'm going to check out from the version control, I'll be just selecting this checkout. And for the repository URL, I will be just going to my GitHub. Yes, so this is my repository. I'll be kind of just copying this part and going again and pasting it right here. Okay. Since it is public, I don't have to mention the credentials, but if in your case the GitHub repository or the GitLab repository or a Bitbucket repository requires credentials and it is private, then in that case you will have to create or add those credentials over here. Okay, so it's simple, and instead of master I will be mentioning it as main. Okay, so just generate the pipeline script, and I will be just kind of copying this part and kind of pasting it as it is. Okay, so with this my first stage will be getting completed. So just try to save it and let's check if it's building for us. For viewing the console logs, you can just click on that three dots and you can see that checkout is successful. Okay, so again let's go to the pipeline part, and again let's go to the configure section. Now in this we are going to add multiple stages. Like for the Terraform, we make use of multiple steps, right? So first we init, that is we initialize it. Then after that we format it, we validate it, right? So many things we do in pipeline. So similarly, we have to mention those stages here as well. Okay. So the first stage is initializing Terraform. Okay. So let's try to just say kind of within the steps section, we again have the script part, and in this we are going to define the directory within which we have to work in. So basically the directory that I want my Terraform init to work in is of course this EKS, right? So I will be just mentioning the EKS directory path over here. So just mention it as EKS, and within this just make use of sh and make use of Terraform init. Okay. So this is our first step of Terraform, that is initializing. So let's save it and let's check if it's working properly. So it's initializing, you can see. Okay, so it's successful. Now let's go back. Now in this again we are going to just copy this particular stage once again, and we are going to use it for formatting the Terraform. So Terraform fmt. Similarly for Terraform validate as well. Formatting Terraform code. So Terraform validate. Okay, so simple. And then after that, after validating, we of course do Terraform plan. So you can also say previewing the infra using Terraform. So just say Terraform plan. Okay, that's it. Just save it and build now. So basically it is validating. Okay, so there is success, and now it will show me the Terraform plan details as well. Okay, so all the changes have been shown right here. Okay, so you just mentioned few things, but under the um, underlying, so many things are happening. Okay, so that's great. You have to add 55 more things, and yes, so now uh, so after this particular stage, we are going to add another stage of applying the changes. Or we can also say creating an EKS cluster. Okay, steps. Then within that we have got script. The directory would be the same one, right? That is EKS. And within this one we are going to mention Terraform apply hyphen hyphen auto hyphen approve. um, just let me save it, and now let's try to build. See, most of you must have got confused like from where this Terraform came. We though haven't even installed. But if you remember in the code, while installing the Jenkins, we also installed this particular Terraform. Along with that, we also installed this kubectl as well. So you don't have to um, think like from where this Terraform came. So this Terraform came because we had installed it while creating the EC2 instance itself. Okay. And always remember, whenever you are running a pipeline, okay, so you can't put just Terraform apply. You must have to make use of hyphen hyphen auto hyphen approve, because otherwise it will ask you to enter to confirm, right? It will prompt to confirm, which is not possible in case of a pipeline, right? So that is something that we need to be aware of, and we need to take actions accordingly. So all the things are getting created, which means that the authentication has worked properly for our cloud platform. Okay. So this EKS cluster takes a lot of time to create. So now I'll be pausing this video and just resuming it once it's uh, it gets created. Now you can see that the apply has been completed and all the resources have been created, right? So this is how we are implementing the Jenkins pipeline. But um, in ordinary cases, like if I go and apply the changes using Terraform, then I get a prompt for confirming whether I really want to proceed or not. But here I am not getting that option, right? So if I want to add that particular option here also, then what I can do is I can do it in some other way. Now how can I do it? So I will be just making use of input function. Now with the help of this function, this particular Jenkins stage will ask me like whether you want to proceed or not. Okay, if I say proceed, then only it is going to execute the rest of the pipeline, else it is going to abort the pipeline. Okay, simple. So just we are going to add a message over here, that is, are you sure to proceed? Okay, and then if it's okay, then you have to say proceed. Okay, so this is what is the input message that I would like to add. Simple. Let me just save this. And now we are going to again build the pipeline just to show you how this input is actually going to work. Okay, now it has done. Now, when you hover your cursor over this, you will get this option like, are you sure to proceed? So, if I say proceed, then only it is going to continue with this pipeline. I'm going to click on this, and now it has proceeded for creating an EKS cluster. So unless and until I don't go for proceed, it is not going to continue with the pipeline. So this is the benefit or an additional thing that we can customize for our pipeline um, according to our requirements, right? Now, okay, well and good that we applied the changes, we created an EKS cluster. That's definitely good. But what if I want to destroy this cluster? That is the infra, that whatever I have created, I just want to destroy it. Then what? right? So in that case, what we are going to do is, I'm not going to destroy as such, but just adding an option or a feature, I would say. So in this, we have got this project is parameterized. So in this case, I'm going to add one parameter, that is a choice parameter. So it is going to ask me which one to select. Okay. So the name would be like action, and I'm going to just give it two options like apply and destroy. Right. So these are the action to be performed by Terraform. Simple. So this is how we are going to add the changes. Okay, it's pretty simple and we are done. Yes. So in this way, in this particular creating or destroying, I would say, depending on the choice that you make, right? So this action is going to be considered for that respective task. Okay, simple is it. Now you have configured your EKS cluster. Now the next stage that I'm going to add in is to create a deployment as well as a service on that particular EKS cluster. So I have already got these files. I'm just going to add these files to my EKS. Okay, so but this is for the infra, right? So instead of adding it here itself, what I can do is I can just create another folder. So let me do it in my local only so that it would be more convenient for me as well. Within the projects, I've got this project and this EKS. Fine. So let's try to create a new folder for this, specifically for the configuration files. Okay. So within this, I'm going to kind of create a new file, that is deployment.yaml, and one more file would be um, service.yaml, right? So what is deployment, what is service? You must be knowing if you know how Kubernetes works, right? So what I have done is I have already created these files over here. I would just like to explain it in short, like what all things it is doing. So basically the API version is apps /v1. Then the kind of this particular file is deployment, or the resource is deployment. Then we have got a metadata, and we have just named this particular uh, deployment as Nginx. Then within the specification section, we have created a template, right? And we have also created or mentioned the metadata, wherein the labels are app equals to Nginx. Within the spec, we have mentioned the containers. So basically, Kubernetes is used to manage these containers. Okay. So what are containers and everything, that we are going to create a new playlist for it, and we'll be covering everything in there. But for time being, just try to understand a package of containers. Okay. So package of application, sorry, not containers. It's just the package of application and its dependencies. Simple. Okay. So you are actually converting. or packaging your applications in the form of containers. And the name of this container is Nginx. The image is Nginx. So basically, when you mention like this, it is going to pull that image from the Docker Hub repository. Okay. And then within the ports, we have this container port as 80. And we are going to save it. Then for the service, what we are going to do is we are just going to select it. Okay. So in this we have got API version as v1, then the services the kind is service, and then we have got this metadata again similar to that of the previous one. Labels are same, right? The ports are like 80. Why? Because the container port was also 80, so we need to match it and pass it, right? So the target port is 80, protocol is TCP, the selector again is app nginx, and the type is load balancer. So there are three different types of services, that is cluster IP, then we have got node port, and this third one is nothing but load balancer. Okay, so it is going to create a load balancer for us. Okay, so let me save all of it, and now let me go to the git bash, and we are going to push these changes to our GitHub repo. So committing the changes, adding configuration files. Okay, then git push -u origin main. So now we have pushed the changes to the repo. Let me refresh it. Okay, within the EKS you can see this configuration files section, and we have got these two uh, files that we are going to apply with the help of kubectl, right? So basically we are going to make use of kubectl over here in our pipeline. So stage deploying nginx application. Okay, we are done with this. Then the steps, we just need to mention the script, and within this we are going to mention the dir, that is directory, that is EKS slash, don't take risk, just copy it from here itself and copy it properly. Okay, and then after that you'll be just pasting it right here. Then what are we going to do is we are going to make use of AWS. There is a command specifically, that is AWS EKS update kubeconfig -name my, whatever the name that you want to mention, you are going to do this. Now we can see that AWS EKS update kubeconfig name over here, right? Let me just save it. Okay, so there was an error. So you must specify a region. You can also configure your region by running AWS configure. So we also need to define the region out here. So there is some change that I need to make in here. So it should be default region. That's why it's not taking. Okay. So the environment variables must be precise as I told you. Build. Yes. So that was the only problem. Okay. So now what we are going to do is we are going to just apply kubectl. Okay. Since we have already installed kubectl, we won't get any problem over here. Okay, hyphen f and the path that we want to mention, that is deployment dot yaml. Okay, so this is the command that we need to implement. Apply hyphen f and whatever the service dot yaml is. Okay, now just save. So we can see that this is the EKS cluster that has been created already. Now the only problem that we are facing over here is we are not able to apply the changes, right? And the error is this. In context of, like, just let me mention for EKS. The IP used is a private, it cannot be accessed outside. So change your cluster's API server endpoint access to public. Yes. So something that I missed, okay, is that within this particular main.tf, I had to mention something, that is cluster endpoint public access to be mentioned to be true. Okay. So now let's try to add it, commit the changes. Okay. Now let's try to push it. Now on pushing it, I think we didn't enable the polling, right? So that is something that we can enable right here. Okay. So let me go to the configure section, and within this you can just mention poll SCM and mention the 5 stars over here. Okay, but now I think we'll have to make the changes now itself. Okay, so where is this? Yeah, let's build it with parameters once again, and now again it is going to take a lot of time. Okay, so it is out of memory once again. Okay, so again I will have to once again configure it. Let us try to configure build with parameters once again. I think it's again out of memory, guys. So what I can do now is I can either just change its instance type, go to the terraform.tfvars and mention it as t2.medium and just save it. Now let's go to the cd ec or just ls cd jenkins server and terraform apply hyphen. Okay, now the modifications have been done. Let's go to our instances and let's just kind of refresh it, or it's just kind of initializing. So let us wait for it to initialize first. So let's try to build. So let's proceed. Hey guys, now you can see that this deployment.apps as well as service slash nginx has been created. So now let's go to our load balancer. You can see that a load balancer service has been created over here. Let us wait for it to be active. So now you can see that it shows welcome to Nginx, which is because of the deployment file that we deployed on our Kubernetes cluster. So I hope you found this video helpful. Please like, share, and also there is one more thing, that if you want to destroy this pipeline, what you can do is you can simply go to this particular Terraform, and within the build with parameters you can simply say destroy and click on build. It is going to destroy the whole infra that you created using this particular pipeline. So that's it for this. Thank you so much.